This will be a little different than most of my videos because I'm going to just, like I said in my email, I'm going to share some things that happened in my life that are part of what allowed, well, it was some brutal, not so good stuff, some wicked evil stuff that happened, but that allowed me to go on to make a lot of money online and become one of the first internet marketers back when there was no so-called gurus or teachers. I mean, talk in the mid-90s, and you know, everybody was just kind of feeling their way and trying to figure out what was what, but I lucked out. Maybe it's just because I found the right mentor, or it could be a lucky piece of spam that I received. There's a lot of different things that came into play, but I'm going to share with you some of what did happen so it can hopefully help you if you want to make, you know, significant money. And I've always, you know, generally made somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 per year. Over the past 2 decades, my worst year was probably about $90,000. Anyway, I want to show you what happened. I'll show you what all took place, and it was kind of unique. It's not your normal thing. This is not your typical, you know, person trying to brag in any way. It's quite the opposite of bragging. I'm kind of embarrassed to even share what I'm going to share with you, but it's hopefully will be therapeutic and cathartic and all that good stuff. But it is a very personal story. It's hard for me to talk about, but again, it's part of who I am, and it's part of why I became a teacher of internet marketing, and why that's all I've actually, you know, some people say they're unemployable. I mean, that's the way I feel. Like this is all I can do is be an internet marketer. Whatever I do, it has to be from home, and you'll see why in just a moment. In a moment, when I share part of the story with you, what happened to me. Anyway, you're going to benefit from it either way. I promise it won't be boring. I promise you will learn things, how you can grow your business and make a lot more money just through hearing what I've been through and how you can apply it to yourself. Okay, so here we go. Hard to talk about, but anyway, my sadistic father, he laughed when I moved into a tent. I was about 22 years old, and then when I got online and I started making more money than him, well, I suddenly got the respect that I never saw coming. Before I go any further, I want to take a moment to explain how a normally high-achieving person, like myself, ended up living in a tent and then a shed for 5 years. So I'm going to kind of rewind a little bit here, and let's jump back so you understand what happened. I'm sure people have been through worse things, but for me as a little kid, it was about as bad as I could imagine. But ultimately, it forced me to become one of the first internet marketers online. This is back in 1996, and there really wasn't anyone else out there. There was maybe 3 marketers out there at the time that I was aware of that were teaching how to do online marketing. I'd say the worst thing that my dad ever did to me was probably putting a cigarette out on the back of my hand. For some reason, that stands out in my memory as even worse than the regular beatings. But I'm not going to go into all the things he did to my brother and my mom. Just not prepared for that right this moment. I mean, first of all, that's a very personal and private thing that I'm sure they don't want me sharing with the general public. And it's only from going through that wicked and tortured childhood that, you know, I would ever find out and get the joy of knowing how all that abuse would later affect me as an adult. I actually did fairly well in my life for the first 18 years or thereabout. I mean, I had friends, I had a car, I had some pets, I even had a job from the age of about 15 to 18, and I loved work, probably because it took my mind off of the past. But on April 6th, 1989, my somewhat normal life came to a complete screeching halt. What happened was, I went on a spring break trip to Mexico with a few friends, and the trip turned really ugly really fast. Things happened in the middle of the night that I'm not even going to go into right here, right now. Very violent things happened that would forever haunt me. And when I arrived home from Mexico, things were never the same. You know, I thought I had it bad before. Well, it was going to get a lot worse for me. I tried to quickly put all the trauma behind me and move on. Some of the trauma that just happened, and some of it that was from, you know, growing up in that hellhole. But after months of nightmares, flashbacks, and barely any sleep, I was like pretty much, I felt like a dead man walking, to borrow a term from that movie. I was throwing up daily. Literally, I was going on the side of the house before school, throwing up, and I rarely had an appetite. I thought maybe there was more than just violence that occurred in Mexico. I thought maybe I picked up some sort of disease over there to go on top of all the trauma. Many doctors checked me out. I told them about all the horrific events that happened to me in Mexico. And because I was outside of the country, they knew I was outside of the country, they ran a bunch of blood tests. But the doctors ultimately told me that I was suffering from acute PTSD, just like the combat, war veterans often suffer from. The doctors also said that the violence that I experienced in my own home, combined with the brutal events that took place in Mexico, is what triggered the PTSD in their opinion. But again, back to the part where I said before, my sadistic father, he really did. He laughed and thought it was funny and crazy and nutty. And when I moved into a tent at 22 years old, but when I got online and I made more money than him, well, I did truly suddenly get the respect I never saw coming. Never thought he had it in him. Now we come present time, or at present time for back then, when it was 1996, and yes, I was diagnosed with everything that they could think of. They said I was bipolar, that I had OCD, PTSD, clinical depression, anxiety disorder, the whole gamut. Something was definitely wrong with me at that time because I was having total vivid nightmares, panic attacks, cold sweats, flashbacks, just to name a few of the many issues that were just pummeling me at that time. Needless to say, even though I was a hard worker, I had various jobs and I liked working. I worked retail mostly, but I really liked it and I felt like I was good at it. But one day those anxiety attacks literally took me out of normal living. Most people know what agoraphobia is, but in case you don't, it's where you never leave your house, and in some cases you never leave your room. So yeah, I can admit it. I quit my day job and I didn't leave my house for over 5 years. But don't feel sorry for me or my past. I don't. In 1996, when the internet was just kind of taking roots, I used a credit card to buy a computer with money I didn't have. So anyway, buying that computer was pivotal because the computer helped me pass time, and considering that I had spent way too much time in a tent, later upgraded that to a tool shed on the side of my parents' house. I had a lot of time on my hands, and the computer was just a godsend, and the whole internet. But then a dental emergency happened and created mass panic because I was forced to leave pretty much the safety of that tool shed. The dentist said I needed 4 root canals and that I would have a couple fillings to go along, on top of that. Now, knowing the amount of drilling that was about to take place, because the dentist did kind of give me an idea what was about to happen, that sounded worse to me almost than what it was going to cost, of course. But the root canals would end up costing over $8,000 with the crowns and the fillings. So as scary as the thought of these procedures, and having them done was, the thought of missing 4 teeth definitely pulled me out of my shed to go get the work done. I had a couple of $100s in my bank account, and the thought of coming up with $8,000 was really inconceivable to me at that time. But over the years, I filled out several pre-approved applications for credit cards. I don't even know if they still send those pre-approved applications out to young people like they did me. I don't know if they do that anymore, but they were amazing. It was just, again, godsend that happened. I put the $8,000 on the credit cards, and I had no idea how I'd ever pay that money off. I felt bad about that. I figured I'd file a bankruptcy, as much as I didn't want to, that sounded like a bad thing, but at that time it was the Clinton era, and I'd heard people saying bankruptcy was just super simple. So what the heck, I went outside my comfort zone in more than one way, and I ended up buying that computer. So what happened next was definitely not normal for most first-time computer owners, because I got a piece of spam email on my 3rd day of owning that computer, and that piece of email actually answered the big question. And of course that question is what many of you, everybody's probably had who's watching this: how do you make any money with a computer? At some point we have that question, and I had it big time. And so there was this one simple unsolicited piece of spam that had all the answers, and that's, looking back, it's hard to believe, one little email that I didn't ask for. But back then, spam wasn't even considered nearly as evil and taboo and all that as it is these days. But either way, this guy who randomly showed up in my old AOL inbox was the real deal. Now, this guy, that emailed me, he shared some seriously good stuff that I ended up buying, and again, more credit card debt. But it's a good thing I did the whole borrowing the money and using the credit cards and buying the computer, everything, because after 4 months, I had $12,000 in the bank. Now, other than my kids being born 20 years approximately later, give or take, I can't remember a more satisfying moment in life than the moment I wrote the check to pay off that $8,000 of debt. And my goal was never to be wealthy or rich or anything, but the money from that one email tip brought me $44,620 in that first year alone. The next year, I broke $160,000. The year after that, I hit just over $280,000. So I was seriously on a roll with this whole computer internet thing. A lot of people found the whole story interesting, so I created a whole video complete with pictures of my tent, the shed, the old computer, a house I grew up in. I have a whole little movie I made. So ask me about that if that's something you'd like to take a look at. It's something actually I created a video you can use as a inspirational little sales tool. So if you want to help, I don't know. I try to find silver linings in things and try to figure out ways to take bad stuff and make it good. So again, don't feel bad if you want to use my little tragic story and have some gain. It works real well. I have a lot of people that use it with great results. Anyway, all these years later, the teachings from that one email are still responsible for 90% of my income. Considering that most of the people who reach out to me are beginners, it makes sense. That's just typically been my demographic, those who haven't made a lot of money. So it makes sense for those who haven't experienced a solid online income to learn the easiest method I've ever seen. The same one that changed my life so many years ago and still does to this day. And again, if you want to see the whole thing unfold, on the little movie, watch the video. I'll even give you the website address right here. Just go to thatsystem.com. Some of you already seen that, but you might want to watch it again because, again, it's a tool that you can potentially use for yourself and have a lot more leads closing and converting. I can put your phone number and your contact info on the end of that video. It works really, really good. Most people just say because it's authentic, it's not hypey, and it's kind of a bit of a documentary. So most people, they're used to all these get-rich-quick videos that hype them all up, and it's just, they don't believe it. This video I created, if you've seen it, again, watch it again because it's just working so well. I urge anyone to give it a try. And again, I'll change your phone number, swap my phone number out for yours, so that when I get to the end, they don't even know it's me because I don't even put my name in the video. So I know some people make videos like that because they're trying to ultimately build a big brand or get all your leads to come to them. Your leads will never even know who I am, other than a picture, or looking at me. In fact, in the video, I take it a step further. I don't even show. I show a quick, older picture of myself, but there's not even video like this, so they can't even really figure out who I am. And I'm not like super famous or anything like that at all, so it's they're not going to know. So anyway, it's just a real safe way for you to get better conversions, to get more leads, to get those leads that are looking at your stuff to pay close attention, and for you to engage, get that engagement, because until you get the engagement with them and they're, moved or inspired, they probably aren't going to reach out. So, and then you can also tell them that you can have their phone number added to the end of that video for them, and of course that's a very compelling reason for them to call you, and it gives them, it's a lot of value when you're telling somebody that you've got the solution to making their phone ring or get emails come in, orders happening. That's what it takes a lot of times, is a real piece of value like that. I've made a lot of money from just little bonuses like that, getting bonuses from other stuff that other people created, just like I created the video that I'm telling you about, the one that's at thatsystem.com. That's how I've made a lot of money, getting other people's bonuses and just offering them, to people, in obviously working together in partnership. I'm not just grabbing people's stuff and giving it away, but working together in partnership. I've done a lot of those little freebie kind of deals where that was what it took to want to do some business. Again, when I explain how everything unfolded for me and how it all happened, if there's anything that I left out or anything that you're curious about or something that you need help with when it comes to marketing. Again, I have been doing online marketing since 1996. Not to beat the dead horse, but I've done incredibly well. I've got 5 kids, the wife, the 5 kids, and we're extremely blessed. Considering where I came from, there is, I should be one of those guys holding up a cardboard sign. I mean, that's totally what, even my friends sometimes joke about that and say, that seems like that would have been your destiny. If you look back, and the people that knew me back then, especially the people that knew me, when I was 18, there's no way they could imagine that I could even talk. I wasn't able to talk and look people in the eyes for a long time. Like I said, I spent 5 years in isolation pretty much. So the fact that I can even make videos like this now, I know I'm not incredible at it. I know I am probably, you'd say, a little awkward at it, a little stiff. My wife says I need to move my shoulders more, my arms. I just try to be me. I don't want to try to be somebody who I'm not, and so I do what I can. But I'm just thankful that I can do this at all, because there was a time where, again, I was like catatonic and I didn't think I would ever be of use to anybody. So this is just awesome to be able to make my living and support my whole family by helping other people learn how to market online without all the crazy stuff that a lot of people don't want to do, like Facebook marketing, or just a lot of people don't want to do social media marketing, period. And I've got a lot of stuff that worked way back in the day. I say back in the day like I'm a real old timer, but I've got a lot of stuff that worked that from back when I'm telling you about, that still works these days. And everybody's going to all the new, the higher tech, the better. But I don't know about you, but I see a lot of people with a lot of headaches and a lot of frustration getting a lot of not so great results when there's easier methods that are just more relaxing, I think, and I'll be happy to share some of those with you. So again, if you want to give me a holler, you can reach me. I'll post my number in the video or below it. So I really like helping people, and I'm the real deal. I try to be what a couple of people did for me, 20 plus years ago. I try to do for others the same thing, and pay it forward and give some seriously good advice, some awesome tips, and I don't hold anything back. I share everything that I do. There's nothing that I do that I keep a secret. Some people are like, oh, I can't tell them that because then you'll take all my best leads or get all my best advertising spots. Nothing like that. I'll show you everything I do. Anyway, that's it for now. Have a blessed day. Thank you for staying to the end. You're obviously a serious person, and I hope you do watch the whole story. So I better wrap this up. It's been fun, and I, again, hope we can work together at some point. Have an awesome day. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.